What is up, everybody? Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate and Stuff. Coming to you live from a dungeon. Are you in a dungeon, Carlos?
I would say it's like a bomb-proof kind of man cave set up here with Raven stuff, Game of Thrones,
I say there's a
documents
sword behind you.
there's a sword behind me, documents from our founding fathers, a lot of George Washington stuff. So there's a Papa P would be grabbing a few things here. There is a axe type thing, a mini axe type thing here, and then the sword which is on screen that you can see. So Papa P would be having a field day in here for sure.
Total man cave. I love it. Up in Baltimore, visiting friends.
Up in Baltimore visiting friends for a very low-key bachelor week that was supposed to be in Miami, but enough people couldn't come because the wedding next month is in St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh,
So we
okay.
pivoted and just did a Orioles game, got a box for that, which was a lot of fun, and got some golf in.
Nice. Sounds like a good time.
Very good time.
How are things in your end, Pop P? Did you travel recently?
Did I travel recently? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You sound a little strange, but yes.
Yeah. Didn't we talk about it last week? I went to the park.
I know. That was me attempting to phrase that in an ambiguous way for you to tell us that you went to your trailer park. How was it? How was your visit?
This is interesting because I feel as if I just had deja vu. And I was just trying to think of like, when did I go to the park? I've lost all my time has gotten jumbled. And I was like, I feel like we already had this episode where I talked about that.
No, we have not. You went last week. We pre-recorded because you were out of town.
Interesting.
As was Carlos.
It could have been a dream.
Obviously, I haven't been taking my ginkgo biloba.
And you're what?
My ginkgo biloba to help my
sounds
memory.
Like a worm that you have to eat.
You don't know what ginkgo biloba is, bro?
No,
I don't. It sounds like some type of fat on a whale or something.
Where's my?
That's better than my worms.
I have all these pills everywhere. Somewhere I have
ginkgo biloba.
Ginseng ginkgo biloba.
Okay. Does it work?
Yeah, increased memory performance and learning capacity. It's very good. There was a whole rage back in the day where you had ginseng, drink,
And they used to put that in like energy drinks at first.
Yeah, it's like in like green tea and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so that was the rage back in the day. Anyway, man. So we have this unit, right? So I think on another episode, if my memory's not effing with me here, we did talk about like kind of like how when you own this many rentals, we have like 36 individual properties in this one park. We're doing all these rehabs. It's like mini rehabs constantly going as we turn over because everyone was on month to month.
Yeah.
So it's like as we're raising rents, people are just leaving, some giving notice, some not. They're just like, so we've been having these units pop up and we've done a lot of rehabs. And one of them we did, and we haven't rented it, which is odd because we have rented everyone way above what we had. And Tyler, if he's listening, would be extremely jealous right now. Because we had rented it above what I had assumed I would be able to get for the units because we moved to Section 8. Anyway, it's not renting. So Brittany sent me out there and she's like, I get like a list of to-dos when I go.
Hang on. Is it a different size than the other ones you've rented? No.
We have about the same, like 3-2. We have one or two small ones, but they're all about 1,280 square feet. Okay. We have two double wides that are about 1,600 square feet, but the rest kind of fall in that 1,200 range.
So there's nothing distinguishing from paper.
No. So, and this is a very good tip, like for anybody listening, and it's really hard to tell sometimes as a flipper. You spend all this money, right? And this is not related to the park. This is an analogy. As a flipper, you spend all this time getting the inside with shaker cabinets, granite countertops, gold fixtures, lighted mirrors, and you spend $80,000 on the inside.
Yeah.
And you assume that sells it, and you forget to do curb appeal. You forget to put mulch, or you forget to put a palm tree, like in Florida, you put a palm tree in the corner at the sidewalk, or you forget to put a new mailbox in, or you forget to patch that driveway because you spend all of this money in your, essentially inside your...
where you think people are going to be living, and that's what matters.
100%. So what I'm getting at is when I went there, I looked and the inside of the property was pretty good. And I was like, man, this is not bad. It's a little dated, but like we redid all the floors. Here's the thing: as I rolled up to the property, that caddy corner, dog chases me down as I get out of my car and starts yapping at me, barking, just vigorously barking at me. Comes up to the street, stands at the end of the driveway, just barking.
Is he behind a fence?
Huh? No, he runs from the one mobile all the way across down the hill, across the street, and he's barking.
What kind of dog?
I don't know, like a shepherd of some kind.
Okay.
Like a mid to large size dog,
like
like a Chihuahua.
like a cattle dog, you know.
Yeah.
And then I go up and I'm sitting on the porch, and I'm trying to get the key, and I look to my left at the left neighbor, and I see a dog chained up to a fucking front porch, and I look in the yard and I see toys strewn everywhere, a bike upside down, just like a broken down car with the fucking hood up. And I'm like, okay, so now I go inside and I say, okay, everything's looking good. There's like, we have one fix. Like there was a couple things I wrote down as a punch out list. And I go out the back door, and the back of that same neighbor, just like fucking trash. There's a tire, and we had just paid. I spent, I don't know, $6,000 cleaning up all 20 acres. Like debris pickup, everything, trash pickup, just littered again. Just cans, camping chairs. So I called Brittany and I'm like, here's the thing, like a lesson to learn. And this is where it goes back to the flipping. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the inside of the property as to why it's not selling or the price of the property. It has to do with the neighbors. Every other unit that we had got rented out because when you go in the rest of the park, the neighbors are fine.
Just that person in the back.
So, and the funny thing is, these two people are our current ongoing evictions. That we've been trying to kick out. And our lawyer made a mistake and filed in the wrong county, so we've been pushed out a month. We got delayed 30 days because by the time he realized we're right on county line. So like, and he was very shocked that we were in Saline County, not Pulaski County. So, and that's the thing. And so that's why, because we had shown it to other people and they had a choice between this and we had like 3 others. And every time someone sees this one and the other ones, they always go, I'll take the other one. And we have a lady moving out on lot 9. Someone saw lot 2 and they were like, I'll wait for lot 9 to come empty. And I was like, listen, Brittany, I was like, it has nothing to do with the unit. Yeah, it could be better.
Right. But it's not horrible.
No, I was like, you want to know what's horrible? The neighbors. Horrible, man. And that's the thing is sometimes you have to clean that up. And I've gotten so many complaints. So that's kind of what I was dealing with. Is I was checking units and stuff.
Yeah. How do you guys show rentals?
So we use a lockbox system, but we have a runner. We have a pretty, like, it took a while to find. It's not too different than wholesaling. So we run the same type of system on our property management outside of me visiting, every month or I think I did every other month last time, but, going up there and spending a couple days, but we hire a runner. And if we have issues, the runner runs out, takes a look. We also have a pretty good vendor system. Still trying to find a pretty good handyman, but the one handyman / contractor, he lives down the road. So like he's pretty, and he has an office for his AC businesses down the road. So he'll hop in for us too. And like, we're giving them a lot of business. Like that AC guy has the contract to do all of my ACs at a per ton. Like we agreed on a price. We negotiated out a price for all the same type of systems. And then he's done multiple $8,000 to $10,000 rehabs for us on some of our bad units. So he's making money. So like in Arkansas, like it's a pretty good gig. It's a nice area, but it's not a very rich area. Like we're not in Orlando or Miami metro, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's a metro, but very rural still, where people are looking for solid work.
And consistent work, probably.
Consistent work is key. Like, I mean, I haven't really talked about it on here, but there was a lot, just like a flipper. Like you're going through, as we're building out this property management, like we're going through the same phases we had to do with flipping. Finding the right vendors, having bad vendors, waiting for bids for weeks, and people flaking on the bids, and meeting people not showing up, and all that stuff. It's the same process. So between the flipping and the wholesaling that we've already do here, we kind of used a lot of that skill to build our virtual property management. and I think it could get better. 100%. I think our costs could come down. But
Nice. So overall, good visit. Like you feel like you're getting
the
what
park
you need.
looks the park looks great. Park looks great. I talked to Tyler. I think we're going to seller finance 2 of the units that we have because the rehabs are going to be more than what the property is worth. So I think I'm going to seller fine. I talked to Tyler, who's been on the show before, the guy who sold me the park because he owns 2 out there. And he was giving me some advice,
You seller finance it back to the original owner?
No, so what you do is, and I pre-negotiated this with the seller because he's holding a lien on the titles of.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So when you seller finance a park, every mobile has individual titles.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get all the fucking titles, who's to say that you don't just go sell every fucking mobile and then say F you to the seller who's holding the note on the actual land? So you have all these pieces. You have the land and then all the mobiles.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guy holds a lien on all the titles of the mobiles. We have the titles, and he's agreed to release the lien on individual ones as we want to sell them or replace them with new ones.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to replace one of them, trash it or sell it to somebody to remove it. Like you could sell it for a couple grand, someone will remove it off. And then the other 2, we're going to seller finance on payments and basically say, hey, listen, you give me a X amount up front. You pay what? I think we're trying to charge. Don't quote me. Brittany's going to yell. 350. I think we're trying to get to 350 for lot rent in that area or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever the payments are. So let's just say the payments are $400 a month. So you're paying $750 for a unit that you have to fix up, but you own it.
Oh,
and then
okay.
when the payments are done, you just go back to paying $350 on lot rent.
Interesting. Okay.
But this way, for somebody who has that ability to fix up a unit, they don't need to put a lot down. They don't need to go and take $20,000, $50,000, $60,000 to buy a mobile. I'm doing it on payments for them. They just have to put the labor in to repair the interior, get the skirting back on, put new floors down, clean out the debris, put a new porch on, that type of stuff. I just don't want to spend $25,000 on both of them to do it, 25 on each to do it. And I'd probably, honestly, I think the one I estimated I'd be around like 30K. And I would rather not do that.
Yeah. Huh. Never thought about that.
So
win-win solutions. It's a good
it's a
thing in life.
win-win solution. And the best part is eventually you get them back. People die, people move, people don't take their homes with them. So you could pretty much get them back at a pretty cheap rate.
How hard is it to move a home that you own?
It's not hard physically. It costs anywhere. I mean, depends on the area. $5,000, $7,000. It depends, like removing it, transporting it, where you transporting it to, and then like they usually hook it up unless you have to hire a separate hookup company. When you place it, like the placement and hooking it up to whatever you're going to, a septic or a city system or something.
Yeah.
But like, think about this, John. Like with mobile homes, like the demographic, how many people just have
$7K lying around to move their house?
So what do? They say, hey, listen, I'll sell it to you. But here's the thing. Who's trying to buy a fucking mobile sitting inside a park that I then have to, me as the landlord of the land has to approve for my lot.
Right.
So that means I pretty much can buy that back at a discounted rate.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to sell these 2 fuckers on seller finance. And then in like 10 years or whenever these people move, I'll buy it back cheaper than what, and it'll be all fixed up. And I'll be like, I got 2 mobiles.
Nice. Sounds like a good plan to me.
So, but it's good, man. Went and sat down with the owner of another park again.
Yeah. Still trying to add number 2 to the portfolio.
Bro, I went up there. I thought I had it the first time. They were ready to go, but then they talked and they're not ready yet. So when I called them the other month, we chit chatted and they just weren't ready to pull the trigger. So
like
they're old.
They're interested in selling, or
they are interested, but it's still like they're not ready to move. They live in a park. They're just not ready to give up their life of this yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to and I talked to them on the phone and I was like, that's fine. Like when I come up there, I'll just stop by. So when I went by, I just sat down and we chit chatted for like another hour and I just put my face in front of them. So when they are ready, every time I go out there, I'm just going to pop by every single time I'm out there. I'm popping by to say hi to these fuckers.
Mhm.
I'm
Make
just
sure
like,
that you're the first phone call they make.
bro, it's the 50-some units, man. It's
Holy crap.
50-some units. I want that park. It has an underground bunker. I want
Oh,
that
I
bunker.
remember you telling me about that one. Yeah.
I'm live from that bunker right now. I'm doing due diligence about it.
They're probably looking at the landscape of the world and like, I don't know if we should move away from our underground bunker.
Well, yeah, I mean, tornadoes are pretty bad up there.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
So that was that was my reason for going. Like I have a list of this is how like anal I am about some things. I needed a list of reasons to go talk to them.
Mhm.
Like small talk. One of my small talk talking points was tornadoes because 2 weeks before I went, a huge tornado cruised through North Little Rock and wiped out a shit ton of buildings. We were watching it on the news here in the office, worried because we didn't have peril on our units.
Oh.
So had the tornado rolled through the park, we would have been royally effed. So we had been calling and we got denied by so many people because they don't cover that. But when I went to these people, they gave me their local insurance agent. This is why you got to go local sometimes.
Yeah.
We used like a big company and we're calling big companies. You got to go to a local agent. We did. The guy lives a mile away from our park. His office is less than a mile away from our park. We got the name, the number, the email. You know, the lady was like, here you go. Here's all of his info. I'm like, perfect. And so now we're getting scooped up on all this insurance because that is scary. And I talked about it. Like tornadoes are scary as shit. The difference between tornadoes and hurricanes, which I, as a Florida person, I didn't know, is the warning.
Right.
You had no warning. It's just like, hey man, there might be a tornado.
And then when one does touch down, it's like you got 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just like you can have like 30 minutes to like get somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, you just don't know. And with hurricanes, it's like Florida people take it for granted. With hurricanes, it's like you got like a week, bro. You're like, we're watching spaghetti models and like, that's not gonna come. The Thursday before the hurricane, you're putting your shutters up. You're planning a fucking we plan hurricane parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because like people who don't live in Florida, they're like, "Oh my god, hurricanes!" And that's the one thing I'm like, I see them coming. I'm like, "Oh my god, earthquakes!" Just like out of nowhere, the building's gonna come down around me. Like that terrifies me.
That terrifies me because there's no warning. Plus, now Carlos is different. Being in Miami, I know you really haven't experienced a major one yet, right? But like me and John are a little biased because we're Central Florida, so we're not really like. I don't want to.
It's true. It is sucks when you're on the coast.
Yeah, like that it had like down in Naples and like what was that, Cape Coral and all that stuff down there last year. But inland, what was it? Do you remember fucking Irma? Where because we hadn't experienced in Central Florida like a real big hurricane hitting us, they had to get on the news and tell us hillbillies to stop shooting guns into the hurricane because that wasn't going to do anything, and the bullets end up having to go somewhere. Yeah, because people were just like shooting the fucking hurricane.
Oh my god.
I remember Charlie. That was like we hadn't experienced a hurricane in a while, and Charlie came through. Nobody battered up. Like that hurricane was bad. I saw a shed roll down the street, turn around the corner, and go around the other corner and slam into a tree. But then there was 2 hurricanes, literally like 4 weeks later, and then 4 weeks after that, and everybody's like battering up, and it's like, oh my god, Charlie was the worst, and they weren't nearly as bad.
That was 06, 07. I was getting told that story when I came down in 2009, 2010.
Oh, you missed Charlie.
I missed it, but everyone was relating back. Oh, when you're asking how's the roof? Well, I did the roof back when Charlie came.
Well, yeah.
That's how people talk down here. That's when they do their upgrades when hurricanes take out their shit.
And then everybody comes knocking on your door. I think your insurance company will cover your roof because you had
the scams, and that's why so many insurance companies are leaving Florida.
It's crazy. Like even like a tornado down here, which they're not as bad as they are in like Arkansas and the Midwest. We still get tornadoes, but like if a tornado touches down within some certain distance from your house, and you have some kind of roof damage, people will come knock on your door and be like, "Hey, a tornado came by. If you have some roof damage, we can get this covered and replace your roof." It's crazy. The
I was
scammers.
talking to someone when I was a realtor once. It was years ago. And I was like, I asked them about their roof, and they go, well, we're actually just going to wait till this hurricane season. We're hoping a hurricane comes by and we can just get insurance to pay for it.
Mhm.
And I was
That's
like,
wild.
Mhm.
okay, didn't. But that's why. So there is a stat, and I'm going to fuck it up, but we have Florida alone accounts for less than 10% of insurance revenue, but 70+% of the claim costs across the nation.
Interesting.
And
I believe it.
I'm sure somebody could Google that to get the actual numbers I was approximating and roughing out from when I heard that.
Yeah.
But I was kind of shocked by that, but I believe it.
Yeah. 100%. It happens when a hurricane comes through, especially the bad ones.
Yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, we got off topic.
Yeah, tornadoes sketch me out because you could live in any type of place and you could just get carried away.
Yeah.
At least for me, knock on wood, I'm not like right on the ground level. So even the recent flooding in Fort Lauderdale, which is like 30 minutes, 45 minutes north of me, which was crazy. I won't be directly affected by that, by like hurricane stuff or flooding or anything like that.
Yeah.
Unless a Cat 5 comes right at you.
I wasn't going to say anything, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, bro, I don't
start knocking.
I don't know. Carlos like, I'll be good. But,
Yeah,
bro, like,
knock on wood like a month from now. Carlos actually isn't on the show. He had a stage 5.
Stage 5 comes right through. Like,
right in his
some
building.
of those tall buildings are the most acceptable. Like, I mean, we get lucky a lot of times the way these hurricanes slow down as they come up to us or curve and get away from us. Which is why I don't want to live on the coast.
Yeah. You're kind of playing Russian roulette with like a minigun that has like a 1,000-round clip.
And we just don't
Russian
learn our
roulette. It's
lesson.
like you shoot one, it's like, all right, we're good. It didn't hit us this far in Florida.
I find it funny though, but I don't know. I'm happy. I just want to, but I was looking at like lake houses up in Arkansas, and I was like really concerned because I'm like, because I was moving from North Carolina, John, and checking out real estate in Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
I know you're not an Arkansas guy, but you might want to look. The more you get more house for your money on the lakes out in Arkansas than you do out in the lakes, because North Carolina has become so.
How north do you have to go to get mountains in Arkansas, though? I know they're there.
So the Ozarks are in the northwest corner of Arkansas.
I care more about mountains than lakes.
So this water, I was trying to buy a lake house on this lake that this water comes from. They don't let you. There's no houses around this lake.
What?
Yeah, you can't buy. There's no real estate around. It's a totally natural, which is good to know that our water comes from where people aren't like peeing in it and stuff. So
that's true.
But yeah, I was looking. I was like, man, let me go find this lake and see if I can get a house right there. I'll bottle my own water.
Yeah, I'll have to check out.
It's not as mountainous as North Carolina, but like I was looking at on a lake up there for $3. So I was looking at North Carolina. You get a lake house. You spend $3 million for like a cookie cutter house on Lake Glenville. That's like, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
3 stories. You get no land. I looked at one up on Beaver Lake up in the Ozarks. You got 150 acres with like a 7,000 square foot house, 5 docks, boathouse, all for like $3 million. And I'm like,
We'll see you.
You've seen the show? Have you seen the show Ozarks?
Lake. No, I haven't. But I want.
That's another Papa P show. It's moving money around. It's transactional. It's sales.
Brittany wouldn't let me watch Trailer Park Boys.
What?
Why not? Oh
No,
man,
no.
that one's so
She
good.
said it's not her type of show because we finished. You know how you guys, I'm sure, like if you have your shows that you watch.
Yeah.
Finished one,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, Carlos, like we finished this one. Carlos said we should watch Trailer Park Boys.
100%.
That got squashed.
Mm.
You at least just
Mama P
may not have to
squashed
like finish it through. Mama P may not have to watch the entire thing, but just because you guys are in that, you're living.
That's what I said.
It's worth watching a couple episodes because you see just the.
I want
like how the residents or the tenants or whatever like kind of talk against the ownership. It's hilarious.
100%, dude. I'm down for it.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Well, fit it in, dude. You can get it in. May have to be a solo show for you.
Yeah. All right. So I did not make our pre-show meeting this week. So Carlos and Papa P discussed kind of like what they'd like to talk to. And I felt like you guys are trying to have an intervention with me with this topic that you wanted to talk about.
Not directly, no. This was a Papa P inspired one.
I think
It
Papa
was a
P
Papa
wants
P
to have an
inspired one.
intervention with me.
Oh no, I mean, so the topic of no.
Yeah.
John, do you feel like you say yes to a lot of people?
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I feel like
You
I have
already know.
noticed myself this last like 2 months really being like more longer term looking and realizing that no helps me get to the long term plan faster than
Mhm.
yes to the short term things. So I have noticed myself thinking about it more than I ever have. But I do say yes a lot.
That's the thing, right? Like if you say yes too much, so there's I'm gonna recite a lot of quotes going through this because this has helped me. But like you have, and I think it was Warren Buffett, who said, "Do you want to know the difference between successful people and the most successful people?" And someone's like, "What?" And he goes, "The most successful people say no to almost everything.
Mhm.
Successful people say no to almost nothing."
Mm,
And I might have messed that up in there, but that's the general gist.
yeah.
And you start thinking of it. So I was telling Carlos, I was pretty proud of myself. And I've been meaning to tell you guys because I had started this property management back in November with Brittany, and Brittany runs it all. I don't do shit. Anyway, one of my big investors down here in Florida owns hundreds of properties, just
Mhm.
all over. He was upset with his doing it in house. The girl in his office, he feels like he's still doing all the work. He asked me, and he was like, "Would you do my? You have a property management company? Would you just do mine? What would you charge me?"
Mhm.
And old me triggered for 1 second
Right.
because
Yeah.
old me had this saying as a realtor. And as a realtor, you're trained, if you say no to somebody, they will find somebody to replace you.
Mhm.
And as a realtor, you live and die transactionally. So, and you're not really future thinking as a realtor. You're always focused on this deal, the next deal. You're not thinking about like building your business per se for 50 years like
Right.
you are. Anyway, I was like, man, like he's got a shit ton of properties.
Mhm.
This would be huge. We would make money. And I thought about the growing pains. We just bought our first park. We were learning. I was like, man, this is going to take away focus. And I just said no to him. I actually said, well, it's not really that type of, I remember it because I was like, it's not really that type of property management, man.
Right. This is all single families that he owns?
He owns mobile, single
Okay.
families, multi. He's a collector of things.
Mm.
Anyway, I said no to him, and he understood it. You know, there was no anger, there was no backlash.
Yeah.
He asked a question, I gave him a reason why, and he was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And I was like, and I got off that call, and I was proud of myself because old me would have said yes. I would have thrown the office through turmoil trying to do this, promising all this money, but then the money would not have nearly equated to the distraction and the problem, the constraints, the congestion it would have caused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I look back at like how I got to where I am, and maybe this isn't, I've never reflected this way before. So maybe it's a big reason why I have a bad time saying no. But so I was working for like a consultant doing Apple computers for business. And there was some like mix up with a client. They blamed me. It wasn't my fault. Anyways, they fired me. And so I had started doing Podio consulting at that company. And so I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. I really like it. And so I kind of stepped out there on my own. And so for probably like a year and a half, I just said yes to everything. I didn't care how much money I made. It was like, I have to do this to build who I am. And like, I did get to where I am now. Like I said,
Yeah.
I met a guy, Matt Terrio, and he's like, you know, can you build my Podio setup? And I looked him up online. I was like, yeah. And he's like, how much are you going to charge? And I said, nothing. And then the dude sent me my next like 15 clients.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's like,
you and I met.
Yeah.
Not through him, exactly. But through somebody else you did.
Yeah. And so like, yes was great for them. And it helped me get to a point, but I definitely am like in a phase now where no needs to be like 10 times more important.
Thing. Okay. So there, and I forget who said this, but like this will blow your mind, is like the problem is as you become, so it's an inverse of thinking essentially, because when you're starting out, generality is your success. being
Mhm.
able to say yes to things and to generalize and do more projects. But as you scale as a company,
Yeah.
the difference is as you scale as a company, you scale as responsibility. So you have more people downstream of you that are more responsive, that you have responsibility for, which rely on you to now become more specific in what you do, aka saying no to things that are outside what you're doing. Now, there's a difference between specificity of project and specificity of skill set, right? So
Mhm.
like as when you're starting out, you're more specific in your skill set, but general in the projects. Like I'll say, yeah, I have this skill. I'll say yes to this makes me money, and you're doing this. But then as you go up this ladder and you have all these employees, your job to become a good leader, and this I didn't know until I learned it, like I'm still learning, is
Mhm.
that you have to say no to a lot of things because you have to be very specific in your project but
Mhm.
general in your skill set. So John, for example, knows that for the past couple months, we have a project for REI Ops Center. I'm very specific on it, but I had to generalize my skill to get that project of, I taught myself ClickFunnels, Facebook ads, all this different stuff that I was teaching and like hosting
Mhm.
webinars. That was generality in skill, but still specific in
Yeah.
my project. And I was saying no to other things instead of grabbing, and that's why I was proud of myself. And even around that time, another customer came to my door, knocked at the office, and asked me to manage property in Daytona for him.
Nah.
I said no. He then came back, said that deal didn't work, but he had one locally. Would I do it? And I said no to him again. And I was like,
Look at me go.
fucking saying no to people.
Nah.
So anyway, so that's the thing, John, is like going back to you is like, you got to be more specific in your projects, but general in what you're doing within that core scope of your company, essentially your skills. You have to
Mhm.
keep growing as a person.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
for
that stuff's
sure.
always going to be that stuff is always going to be adjusting or changing to a certain extent of like what
Yeah.
your specific and general focuses are. For more the psychological aspects, we're proud of you, Papa P. But I also want to throw in that that's definitely something that's been on my mind, just of not like super recently, but just maybe the last couple years, like saying no or not being as worried about like deteriorating a relationship over saying no or anything. Oftentimes it's not really as bad. It's not going to be as bad as you think. Like if you say no a lot, and I think I was even reading
Mm.
this in a book or something
Like
that it may,
you feel like not you're feeling like you have to say yes, not necessarily for yourself, but for like what that person will think or reflect back on you. That the kind of reverse.
yeah, or like relational health, X slash
Yeah.
relationship equity. That stuff goes into thought for me for sure. But it was either reading something recently the last like couple years, like year or two, or hearing somebody podcast something like that, where it's also sometimes the inverse, where it's like, hey, if you confidently and like firmly tell somebody no, and just give a transparent explanation why, politely, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
why, like the reasoning, like oftentimes they even respect that more. They're like, oh, okay, I respect that. Like if
It,
you're like, hey, I can't drive the Daytona 3 hours and take away from my family. I have a newborn on the
like,
way. I'm managing you
forget
start,
you. Yeah.
yeah, but you
They
can still
actually are
say it
like, they
polite. You can,
respect you.
yeah, and always. I'm big on relationships and relationship building and stuff. So I mean, you can always just say it respectfully, politely, and just get
I don't even think
understanding.
you need to do like, it's not like you just need to, it's not even about respect or politeness, right? Like you don't need to cater, like kowtow to somebody. You
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
need to stick up for yourself. And that's something, and I definitely, I agree with John. I don't condone this if you're starting out. How I started out is the same way, John. I made a shit ton of money initially doing it. But what I didn't learn until like even this past year is just at some point,
Hmm.
you
It's
have
got
to
to change.
stop going out and start going up if you expect to
Hmm.
scale and grow.
Hmm.
And I never understood that. I thought that trait was my asset, not a liability. And it's an asset for a time, but eventually that asset turns into a liability if you don't change it. And that's just something no one ever taught me. So that's
Hmm.
why I wanted to talk about no, because I just feel like people, you hear two sides of it. You hear like, oh, just say no to people, but no one explains why. And then you hear say yes, you got to try new things, but nobody explains the time and the season for that either.
Hmm. Yeah. When you say yes, you're always saying no to something else, whether that's like
Yeah.
Your ability to scale, your time with your family, your kids, your time to just rest and like, you know, be a better person to show up every day.
There's
Yeah.
always opportunity cost. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
That's
opportunity
the
cost.
thing is distractions come disguised as opportunities.
Yeah, yeah.
And so your ability to decipher that is interesting, because if you can't, you're going to look at these opportunities and then get distracted, the shiny object syndrome, because they are. But here's the thing, is the opposite side of that, right? The other side of that coin is opportunities also have risks.
Mhm.
And I don't think people understand is that when distractions come disguised as opportunities, they typically come disguised as opportunities without risks. They come disguised with something that's easy, something that's in a quick add-on, something that, oh, I could do that too.
Mhm.
But the real opportunities come as hard.
Yeah.
That could be a huge loss for me. They come presenting the risks per se. And that's how you could kind of tell the difference too, I think. Is just being able to decipher that if there's no risks involved.
Yeah.
Telltale sign is a straight distraction. And
Yeah.
you should
People are
probably-
getting pitched that, and then also this is a separate rant for another episode, but
Huh.
people are getting pitched that when opportunities are presented to them, the minimal work or minimal time
Yeah.
investment and energy it's going to take, but also people getting into things themselves are coming into a mindset of like not thinking it's going to take like a lot of work, or like
Yeah.
people getting into
The second-
wholesaling, and so many
this-
people we talking about getting
Yeah.
into wholesaling, and they're like, oh, like they're already like, well, eventually, pretty quickly, I want to be able to scale and kind of just be like out of the business and just kind of have this run on autopilot. That is just such a massive thing for beginners, but then also people that have kind of done it and just want to snap their fingers and be like, you know what, like I just want to make this kind of like passive, like a
Yeah.
treasury bond or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing's
it's funny.
passive, right? No, I
That's a
agree.
whole
I've
other
heard-
episode.
I've heard
Right?
that.
But
It's the conversation we had about like cold calling, where everyone thinks that cold calling becomes a set it forget it marketing channel. And I argue with people about that. Like it is if you hire somebody to do it. So everything has its risks with it if it's good. If it's bad and they're saying that it's easy and there's no risk, that needs to be when you go in the other direction, I guess. It's just hard because no one talks about it, and it could be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
As you see these things come through. And here's the other thing, is it doesn't have to be an opportunity itself. It could be a person. So two people could come to you with an opportunity or something. And you could say to yourself, let's say John comes to me with something and I'm like, oh man, like, okay, like I kind of want to do that. But then Carlos comes to me with something and it's the same thing. You could say no to one person and say yes to the other, depending on how you see that person in your future, because each person also plays a part in your future. We talked about how like a project plays a part in your future, right? I fully believe that it's the people that are tied to those projects as well. You could say, Carlos, I don't want to do it. John, I do want to do it. Or John, you know what, man, like that's not something I want to do. And then John finds out 6 months later, I did the same thing with Carlos. The reason wasn't the project. The reason was maybe I deemed Carlos to be a better fit for me to do that project because I saw me and him having longevity, right?
Yeah.
Specificity, right? Very specific in my project, but general in my skill set. Whereas John, like I was like, oh man, that's getting general. Like John, he's not in my scope.
Right.
Carlos is in my scope. The project is in my scope, but it's about the people. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was kind of something I was fleshing out in my head too. Is like it comes down to the people. You got two people present you the same thing.
Yeah, as long as it's matching that ability to go like that.
But which person do you see long-term synchronicity with, long-term synergy that you're like, this person, we're going to do a lot with this. Or that person, that's quick money.
Right.
You're like, same thing with training. Like you look at somebody, that person's going to just give me this and then be gone. And I'm going to pay him $2,000 to $5,000. Then you got to start looking at those things.
Yeah. I agree.
So John, you need to say no more.
I do need to say no more. And I think too, like it's not just maybe somebody listening to this is thinking, okay, they're saying no to like additional streams of income, side hustles, right, or whatever. It's also like inside the business, right? And
new softwares.
yeah, or new software is like that thing looks great to add into my business. Or even when you're like looking at your quarterly plan and you're like, wow, if we did this one thing right now, it could massively change things. But is that helping you with the long-term goal of the company, like where you need to be in 5 years? Is it better to focus on things that can elevate that versus just like things in the quick now? So yeah, it's not just about size. I mean, it's on everything, right? Like you could take that same kind of concept to raising kids, having a family, like growing a life together.
100%.
Yeah,
you have to look at all those things, and I just don't think people do enough. I think people don't say no, and saying no is just like so anti-entrepreneurship.
yeah, yes.
We're so geared to yes for everything. I could do that. Yeah, let me take that on.
Jack of all trades.
Because if you had unlimited time, if you had an infinite time horizon, if you had an infinite time horizon, like if we were all AI robots and just could live forever and had time, a lot of the stuff we could figure out, besides maybe being like professional athlete or something like that. Most business things we could figure out if you give us a long enough time horizon. So for me, I take it. Yeah, for me, I see it as that, and then also from the personal relationship. Some people may not care. Like Papa P's like, oh, I don't care about this person, or like I don't care about my relationship with this person. But I think that's the two biggest things. One of us, part of it is like, you know what, I could do this, I could knock this out, or it's like I don't want to say no because I want to keep a high relationship with this person. But yeah, time is the great equalizer, and it's in relation to what else you have going on, what other timelines you have to accomplish, what you're looking to do. Things like that. So it's an interesting conversation.
Think about that saying, John: "Jack of all trades, master of none." But
okay,
but there's another part of it, right? Jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than a master of one. Now, how does that fit in what we were saying? Jack of all trades, as in skill set, right, is still better than master of one. So that goes to the same thing. That quote lines up perfectly with what we're saying. With as you scale, you need to have. You can be general in your trade, your skill set, but still very specific in your project. It's not as a trade is a skill, right? It's a skill set, your ability to do something, right?
Yeah.
You have the ability to have these skills, whether it's marketing, sales, coding, whatever it is in your term of business, Excel, all these things that you teach yourself along the way, all helps you for that one goal. And I think that Jack of all trades saying fits in perfectly with that idea.
Totally agree. I have something to show you guys.
What do you got?
Whoa.
Are we looking at houses somewhere?
Maybe we might eventually.
Lake houses?
So I was
God, I saw this thing.
I wanted to get your opinion on it. So I was talking to a wholesaler this week, and he showed me this piece of software. I haven't logged in and tried it out, but it's all about getting an accurate value on your home. And so he's in the middle of talking to them, and he's trying to get them to think. It's really focused on end home buyers. Its goal is that you log in, you put your home value in, it pulls comps, it looks at your houses, like it can pull permits, I think, stuff like that. And it says, like, what should you do first to maximize your home value? Like, where will your home value be increasing? What price will it be at what point? And what should you do along that time frame to make it even better? And so he's trying to get them to convert it to an investor model to help with ARVs. He said that what they've done is they've taken just hold on. You can give your opinion here in a minute. They took a bunch of inspectors, they went out to the property, inspected it, and then they compared the inspector report to what Cocoon was telling them. And the inspectors came back and said it was fairly accurate in what it was presenting. But I don't know. It sounds like they're doing a lot of interesting data things beyond what like Zillow does with its estimated value, because it's not just relying upon public records. It's going more detailed into the home or whatever that means. I don't know how accurate it is. Again, I haven't played around with it. But, all right, you took a look, Papa P. What did you think?
I think it's a complex, convoluted thing that the majority of home buyers are not going to give a shit about or use.
Right. I don't care about the end home buyers.
And
Do
I
you
think
see it as like an investing tool?
I think the guy is spending. This is a perfect example of a fucking distraction, an interior distraction. He's calling a software company to try to get them to cater something to try to help him get better ARV to do the work for him. Listen, two things. Okay. One, you could spend that same energy on creating a really good training guide for your people.
Yeah.
And even a calculator. And two, you could also come to understand that ARV doesn't need to be accurate. Valuing is an art as much as it is, a science, right? It's both. There's a mix in between there. But the thing is I don't give a shit if the ARV is 380 or 390 or 392 or 393. My job is to identify a problem, is to see if that person has the pain, the ability, and the motivation. The last thing on my list is price. Because price, especially today with novations and seller finance and sub-2 and all these things that are being taught outside of the 70% model and hedge funds, right? Like outside of all of these things, the price is almost irrelevant because I can offer different varying amounts for different strategies. What I care about more is their pain, the motivation, ability. And then on top of that, my sales agent's ability to negotiate them to their lowest point. My accuracy in trying to cause more complexity into my valuing strategy, right? Like, I just feel as if it's a moot point. Like, having all these tools are not going to do anything. You need to focus more on getting your sellers discovered, identified, verified, right? And then worry about your negotiation skills to get them down, because having an accurate number because that's who the ARV is for your agent, right? You're not telling the seller.
Yeah.
Having that accurate number doesn't change their ability to get the seller down.
Right.
A great salesperson could be wrong on ARV, but still get them down so much that it doesn't matter. That it fucking works out. So why am I going to go call a software company and be like, hey guys, listen, I'm a fucking wholesaler, and I'd really love if you catered this to this industry of people and add one more subscription that other wholesalers have to fucking do.
So maybe what should happen is Investor Lift should integrate with this so that people can't send out email headlines with unrealistic ARV.
And Brandon would use it.
I think it comes down. I think it comes down to training, man.
I agree. I agree with you entirely, Brandon. I do think that that's the end all solution. But we all know that is unfortunately not what everybody's going to do.
For a fraction of the time and cost, you could go hire somebody off of Fiverr, have them create you an Excel sheet that then you type in an address. It then goes to Realtor.com, Movado, fucking Trulia, Zillow,
averages it all,
grabs them together and averages. And I bet you that would still be, because in the end, they're all just algorithms and math and formulas trying to guess what 100%. It is. That's the science of it. The human comes in and adds a little art to it and says, well, I know this area a little bit better. I think this house is on a better corner. This street is better. This one's going to be worth a little more. Or I think I could get more for this because the garage is converted, or less. Or
yeah.
And if you don't train your people that all the software in the world, I think this is a perfect example of somebody being distracted by an internal software. I get this all the time when I train people. Like, I remember I told you guys, like, I felt like somebody was adding, like, oh, I heard so-and-so does this on their sales calls. I want to start doing my problem.
Stop listening to podcasts and just listen to me.
Not just listen to me, but again, focus, general in skills, specific in focus, right? Specific in your project. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't be distracted by things that aren't a part of your goal, because everything can be anything. But anything is not everything.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing that people need to understand.
Wise words from a very decent man.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. Is it really? Thanks, Carlos. Is this really pronunciated cocoon?
Yeah, he told me it was cocoon, and I started Googling it. I'm like, I can't find it And he's like,
I
"Oh,
was
it's
thinking it was-
K-U-K-U-N." I was like, "Who
I
the
was
hell's
thinking it
gonna
was-
figure that out?"
Yeah. Cuckoo N is. I was like Cuckoo N, Q-Q-N, Q-Q-N, Q-Q-N. I was like, who came up with this fucking name?
Some tech guy who cares
Yeah.
about science.
I'm sure there's some deep meaning of like where it's
Right.
like it's an inside like intelligent thing. Like, oh yes, this will really get people to buy this software.
I wonder if it's cocoon, like where it's the. Is it called a cocoon? Like the thing that transforms into a butterfly? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of ugly looking, and then it
That's a
transforms.
cocoon.
That's with C though. That's COC.
But I
Yeah.
think they're trying to do a Silicon Valley brush
Yeah.
on that with the fancy colors and
I
the
think-
popping colors and name.
I don't know. You know, I was about to say. Here's another thing I learned in the park. I was about to say that I don't think their demographic is going to be big enough for this. But I have recently learned through self-observation that I think I always underestimate demand for certain things. For example, have you ever wondered why 70 or 80 people are flying to Little Rock on a Thursday morning at 6 a.m. on the same fucking flight? Where are you going in Little Rock? Why have all of us decided to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to board a flight to go to Little Rock, Arkansas? And so I was really diving into this in my head, and I'm like, it's like I was relating it to software and like demand for products, and I was like, maybe I just underestimate the demand, how much that so many people out there that I'm thinking this flight's going to be empty because it's 4:30. It's Little Rock. Who's going there Thursday,
Mhm.
April 18th or whatever? You know what I mean? Like,
Was the
who's doing
flight
this?
full?
Fucking full, dude? Like jam packed.
That's interesting.
And I'm like, maybe my perception of things
Yeah.
is distorted from the reality of what it is. And I was like, how does that relate to like everything else in my life? And that's this thing with Cocoon is like me, because I don't like it. I put this perception on it that there's not a lot of people that like it, but there's what, 700-800? How many people are in the US? What's our population? 700-800 million?
Yeah.
Right?
No, three. We're just over 300 million, right?
8 million. 8 million is like New York.
331 million.
Okay, so
I remember when we hit 300 million. I was still in like
I don't know
college,
where
I think.
got 700 million from. Maybe that's China. I don't know.
I think they're billions. Hang on. What is the China population? 1.4 billion.
Wow.
All right. Well, they definitely beat us out. But their population's aging fast. In the next 10 years, they're because of what they did with the one-child law, they're going to be in a severe population decline, which is one of their concerns. I forget where I was going with it. Anyway,
India's just going.
I was just saying, I realized from looking at these flights and on the way back, and I was going to wherever, and I was like my connecting flight, and I was like, man, there's really this many people on a fucking Saturday morning making this flight. That there's standbys and a line waiting, and like, why is everybody traveling at this time? And I'm like, there's more demand, and that goes to the same attitude wholesalers have of their limiting belief of like sellers selling their house too.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes your perception is skewed from the reality of what's out there because you only see what you see in your exact purview.
Yeah.
And I am very victim to that. And the flight made me have a self-realization that I am a perpetrator of this type of thinking. And I was like,
it's interesting.
But really, who's going to fucking Arkansas? Like, what's in Arkansas, bro? Like, I know why I'm going. Do all these people own mobile parks that they have to go visit?
They gotta go visit.
Are we all going there for the same reason?
A mobile home park property management convention.
Oh man, I think that's a great use of AI. You could go onto a plane and it would
There you
just
go.
tell you exactly why everybody's going. I feel like that'd be some interesting, fun stuff there. Or maybe you have to fill out a ticket. You have to give your reason.
Yeah, more surveys. That'd be fucking awesome. You know, they made me check my bag. You ever have that when you're on the thing and they go, because my flight was delayed, so I was the last person on, I was running.
Oh shit!
Running through the gates on my connecting flight. And I had thanked myself at the time for being in shape and not still 40 pounds overweight because I was running, holding my luggage up with my fanny pack on and a book bag, just like running through the terminals. And I get there and they go, "Oh, sir, we're full. We'll have to check your bag." I'm walking down the catwalk and I'm like, fuck this, man. Like, this is going to fuck my whole, like, getting home.
Don't they, when they check it at the door, don't they give it to you right when you come off, though?
No. This went to the thing. So I had made this decision, and I was like, and this goes with Carlos about not wanting to confront people for relationships statuses.
Yeah.
But me and the bad guy, connected eyes. He looked at my bag, saw the tag on it. I looked at him as I was deciding, should I just F this guy off and just go in there and see if I can find a spot and be that guy squeezing my bag into something? And I looked at him and I was like, I don't want that confrontation. I don't want to be that guy. I give him my bag. I shit you not, I walk on that fucking plane.
Spaces all over
just
the fucking
space fucking empty. I went like this. I go. And I started to turn around, and then I go, it's too late. Too late.
It's already in the airplane.
I should have went with my gut, bro.
Always go with your gut.
That's funny.
Those are my stories.
How long were you sitting at baggage claim?
Bro, one in Tampa, like it takes me forever to get to the fucking baggage claim. Then because it's not like you know when to go to, and then I had to go to. I had to find which one it was. I'm walking up and down until I see my flight number. It probably added like 20 minutes. 25 minutes on to like, because where
I haven't checked a bag in
me neither
ages.
Me neither, and I'm really pissed at this lady.
I'll only check bags.
I know. Carlos and I were talking about this when we were at Phoenix, and he's like, "Yeah, I always check bags." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "That seems like such an inconvenience."
Did I tell you the time I saw a guy raw dog a flight?
What? I don't even know what you mean by that statement.
Bro.
No pack, no
nothing.
Case?
The most badass thing I've ever seen. The motherfucker.
Just his toothbrush in his pocket?
Nothing.
No backpack either?
He had no book. He had no phone out. He had nothing. He literally walked on the plane, nothing. He was across the row. He just comes in, he sits down,
stares at the seat in front of him.
And it was like an hour flight to, I think I was connecting to Atlanta or something. He just, boom, and then I remember I looked over, he got the water, because that's how shitty flights are now, is they only give you they're like, "Oh, we have some treats for you. Just so you know, the stewardess will be coming down with water, tea, and coffee. Enjoy." And he just sat there. He had a cup of water. That's raw dogging. He had no music, no headphones, no magazines, no papers, nothing.
I think I'd go crazy doing that on a plane.
Yeah, he's a brave guy.
That was the most badass thing I've ever seen.
Badass, more badass than Top Gun?
I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You can be.
Just so other people look at me and be like,
"What is
that guy's raw dog in a flight right now?" Power to you, brother.
I just saw Buddha walk on.
Yeah. I don't have the ability. I need to be doing something.
I know. I do too, especially on planes. That many people around you, all loud noises. I gotta be like zoned out.
Yeah. Fucking
crazy.
Flying it like it used to be.
Mm-mm.
I remember 10 years ago when I used to fly to PA, they gave you sodas. They had mini drinks you could buy. You could buy little snacks, or else they give you cookies and shit and little bags of chips, all unhealthy options, but they give it all to you. Coffee, water, tea.
What plane are you flying up to lift from?
I was on Delta.
What? That seems surprising. I could imagine that on Spirit or something.
No, bro. This was a huge flight. I had a TV on my headrest. I was watching fucking movies. I was watching a Mark Wahlberg football movie, Invincible. That was a good one.
Maybe it's like how long the flight is that they make more money off the tickets, so they do.
Have not had a flight that had
really.
Else. I mean, maybe if I'm first class, but Brittany flies me economy. She says we need to own more parks before she'll fly me first class.
I get that. I get that.
I don't know, man. But I just remember back in the day, I was a baller because I'd be like, she's like, "Do you want soda?" I'd be like, "Yeah." "Can I get Coke?" And she'd be like, "Yeah." And she starts pouring it out. "Can I get the whole can?" And she'd be like, "Yes, sir, you can." And I'd sit there with a can and a cup of ice, and I'd be like, I'm the fucking man right now because I got a whole can of soda for this flight, not knowing that soda was bad for me at the time. This was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you just get some fucking Dasani water, and they're just like, no ice.
Have
Just
a great day.
warm. It's just warm fucking water. There's no ice, bro. They don't give you ice. They're just like, here's some piss water.
I don't know what flight you're on. I'm usually on Southwest, and they
Fucking
have ice
prison.
and water and
Fucking
everything.
prison, bro. Fucking prison flights.
Any polls of the weeks? By the way, I have up over here, what is the China population? It looks like India will be passing China's population any day now. Any day
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's
I believe
crazy.
it. They have nothing better to do than populate.
now. That I will not fully agree with that statement, but they certainly have a big upward trend in their population line.
Slumdog Millionaire, great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I love that fucking
Who's that director? He's one of my favorites. Can't remember his name right now.
Quentin Tarantino.
No.
Honestly, India movies, some of Bollywood, some of the most wild movies you can ever watch on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
I've watched a couple. Their action effects are
Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Go watch any Danny Boyle movie. He's like the only director I know to cross so many genres like sci-fi, horror, whatever you call Slumdog Millionaire. He's a phenomenal director.
That was good though.
It was.
Pulse of the week. Nothing. What do we got?
Cool. Nothing.
We got anything? We have obviously the LLPA, the points charged to high credit score people.
Yeah.
That's the only one that we had, yeah.
I was thinking about this. I was telling my wife, I was like, do you remember? Like, so right now, and there's a misconception, right? Because it's not the interest rates that are going up. It's the loan level pricing adjustments, and it's the differential between them. So yeah, there's going to be some fees. And where the better credit score people depend, and it all depends on like your loan to value ratio, all the things that you're doing. But anyway, they're going to be paying more in fees to make up for lesser quality people. My idea was that every high credit score person should get like a little milk carton with the picture of the low credit score person that they're helping out. Because do you remember in school
And say yes or no.
Do you remember in school when we were little, they would give us these milk cartons with the quarter slots with the little like homeless kids in Africa?
Yeah.
You would go in and you would donate money and you'd put in and be like, if you give 25 cents, you're donating to this little child rice for a month. And I was like, that's what they should do. They should take a picture of every low income, low credit score person. Here you go. John, here is who you are supporting when you get your mortgage. Say hi to Brandon. I'm like, hey, man, thanks for helping me out, bro. I appreciate you. You got me and my family a house cheaper. Appreciate you being responsible. Thank you. And you're like, this is the guy. And you put him up on your fridge. And you're like, honey, that's the guy. And then you see me at like Publix walking down. And you're like, you motherfucker.
I think that's a fair trade-off. I think
they have to send you a Christmas card every year.
Yeah, you're right. Because we did that back in the day too. We would send letters. School was wild back then. We'd send letters at Christmas to the soldiers in Bosnia. Did you guys do that? We would send letters thanking them for their service, and we'd be like, and then we get like a video letter back from them.
Yeah.
And we'd all sit and like roll the TV in.
Yeah. I love the rolled TVs. Those are the best.
The roll TV, they pop the VHS in, and they're like, come on, kids, let's watch your video letter. That's what we did at my school. I don't know if anybody
the good old days.
Yeah.
The good old days.
They won't do that nowadays, but
yeah.
So.
Funny stuff. All right.
Log and load, guys.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you here at the same time, same place, same lovely faces.
Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for a couple guest episodes.
We got guests coming, baby.
Is that next week or 2 weeks? I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks, we've got a guest, and then a week after that, we got a guest. So
back-to-back guests.
Tune in.
More on that next week.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Peace.
See you guys.